We've learned the American Airlines plane that caught fire in Denver last Thursday was on the ground and taxiing when the flames picked up. That's according to a preliminary report from the Federal Aviation Administration. The crew reported engine vibrations after taking off from Colorado Springs, and that plane was diverted to Denver. Your reporter Karen Morfitt was at DIA that day and talked to some of those passengers as we take you behind the story.
Moments after being diverted into Denver International Airport because of engine trouble.
Probably like 10-20 minutes into the flight, they announced that they're going to have to land the plane in Denver because they noticed that there was a lot of vibration when the plane took off.
Passengers on American Airlines Flight 1006 described a chaotic scene that started with the smell of smoke.
As soon as the plane landed, we smelled this weird, like, burning plastic smell, and then everybody started screaming and saying there was a fire.
The Hibbets family was separated on the plane. Dad Frank was in the back.
The people in front of me started screaming when they saw the flames, and then the people started rushing towards the rear to get out, and they were getting very, very panicky.
Mom Ingrid near the wing.
It was surreal because I was like, is this going to blow up? What's happening here? Are they going to be able to put out the fire? And I'm really grateful that this happened on the ground, because if this happened in the air, I don't think I'd be standing here telling you the story.
Their daughters, Gabrielle and Ava, near the front.
As soon as my sister and I ran out of the plane, we were kind of standing right over here, and we saw the plane from the window. Just there was smoke everywhere.
Tense moments this family will now carry with them as they prepare for yet another flight.
I was very, very concerned about them, and I didn't know which exit they were going to be coming out. Then I finally was able to get a hold of my wife on the phone.
We didn't know, and even though we talked to each other on the phone, it was just nice to see everybody and get a big, family group hug.
And Karen joins me now. Karen, thanks so much for being here. I want to talk about this family who got separated on the plane. Hard to imagine what that was like for them when this fire started.
Yeah, well, it was chaos. It sounded like when talking with this family, they said that they just wanted to know that each one of them was safe, because one was in the back, one was in the middle of the plane, and then their daughters were in the front. So they were able to get out, and they were watching all of this happen, not knowing if their mother made it out, if their father went down the slide in the back. The mom was out on the wing, which looked terrifying. And so they were, a great family to talk to about the chaos, because they each had such a different experience. But it was also great to see them all back together.
You mentioned that word chaos, and it certainly looked like an incredibly chaotic scene. I know you talked to a ton of passengers who were on that flight. What else did they tell you about those moments where they're trying to get to safety and how they went about making sure that they were safe?
Right. Well, we hope that in those situations that you have staff or you have attendants that are really guiding you on what to do in these situations. And unfortunately, what we heard from a number of the passengers was that they felt lost. Many of them were being rushed out onto the wing of the airplane, but there was nothing there when they got out to get off of the wing. And so there's crowds of people on this wing, very high off the ground. One thing that they told me over and over was that they were helping each other get out of the window, get onto the wing, and then we're helping each other get down. And so chaos, I think, is the best way to describe that. And then a lot of them frustration for not having the people there to direct them. And then even once they were on the ground, not seeing fire crews initially was a very big concern for them. And they raised that question with us, and that's certainly something that we plan to look into as well.
Yeah, scary situation, perhaps made even worse by the lack of response that you're hearing about from some of those passengers. There's been such a focus on the airline industry and safety concerns with what we have seen with air travel over the last month or so. What did we find out about injuries that night, and how are these passengers feeling about flying now? Because I think a lot of us who haven't even been involved in these incidents are a bit nervous about getting on planes now.
Yeah, it's, a question for many of them was, are we just hearing about this more now, or is this happening more? But many of them are definitely uneasy when it comes to getting back on an airplane. Even many of them were rebooked that night and were getting back on an airplane several hours later. And you could tell that there was just a little bit of a nervous feeling from that family, from several of the other passengers. But as far as injuries, we know 12 people did have to go to the hospital, many of them minor. And it sounded like a lot of what happened was when they were getting down from that wing, some rolled ankles, that type of thing, going down the slide, some bumps and bruises, trying to get out of the plane because of some of the chaos that happened, when you're when you're standing in there just trying to get into the terminal, people are pushing. They're ready to get off the plane. Imagine in this situation how much more aggressive that was. And so it sounds like some of the injuries came from that. But again, definitely some uneasy feelings for many of those passengers that we spoke to, and we plan to stay in touch with them as this investigation unfolds.
Yeah, certainly grateful that those 12 who were injured and were taken to the hospital have now been released. When will we know more about the cause of this and what exactly went into how this happened and how it all played out? Yeah,
we know the NTSB did have investigators arriving in Denver the very next day. So they were there investigating, but with the number of incidents that we've seen recently, we also know they're very busy investigating some of those other major crashes in D.C. that we saw. And now this, typically we get an initial report within 30 days, a very basic report. We've seen kind of the initial findings that we have so far, but an even more basic report will come out in 30 days. And then it could take months before we really know the exact cause, just because they really want to get in and see what happened before making that determination and sharing it with us. And of course, we know you will stay on top of that for us. Great reporting as always. And you at home can keep up with updates on this story and see all of Karen's work on our website, cbscolorado.com.